So imagine this: you steal your carry-on bag, you fasten your seatbelt, and you're just waiting for the captain to announce a pretty standard, maybe a 6-hour flight.
Something normal.
But instead, the intercom crackles, and you hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, our flying time today will be 123 hours and 15 minutes."
Oh man.
Yeah, you're getting off the plane for 5 days.
It is. I mean, it's just a staggering amount of time to spend suspended in the stratosphere.
Right.
To put it in perspective, entire geopolitical events can, unfold, resolve, and just fade entirely cycle in the time it takes this aircraft to go from wheels up to touchdown.
It's completely wild. Welcome to the Guide, everyone. Today we are putting on our travel analyst hats, and we're looking at what I think is the ultimate logistical marvel of modern aviation.
Absolutely.
We're unpacking flight manifest, the passenger logs, blueprints of Flight QS73 via Qonsulate Airways.
A legendary route.
It really is. This is a journey from the city of Samvirno all the way to Melswith. And I mean, the departure conditions alone, they just set this total tone for the entire week.
Yeah, the environmental contrast at takeoff it's a crucial part of the whole psychological experience for the passengers.
Definitely.
Because they're launching out of Samvirno International Airport, which is massive facility, right? 22 runways. And the logs show departure at exactly 12:30 p.m. local time. But if you're looking out the window, it's completely pitch black.
Right, because Samvirno is in the middle of the Celsius dark season.
Exactly.
It's at that region of literally full darkness, leaving this brilliantly illuminated, sprawling cityscape behind with
It's nothingness. Yeah.
It feels less like an international flight and more like a lunar launch.
Well, and that isolation is key. Our objective today is to dissect how an environment like this actually functions, not just mechanically, but as an enclosed society. We are going to look at the onboard microeconomy, the localized sensory engineering for entertainment, and of course, the intense sociological pressure cooker created by trapping this specific cross section of humanity in a pressurized tube.
I can't wait to get into that. But before we can understand what happens inside the plane, we really have to look at the sheer scale of the journey outside it.
Oh, for sure. The geography is essential.
The flight path for a 123-hour journey is monumentally complex. According to the flight telemetry, they launch out of Samvirno, head northeast toward Kansas City, and then they essentially have a course across half the globe.
Yeah, the routing is a masterclass in ultra-long-haul navigation. Ocean, they drive over the Great Seas above the city and Zorka.
It's a huge distance on its own.
Right. Then they push through a northeasterly route over Northern, navigate the notoriously volatile Jogan Sea, and then make this massive, just sustained crossing over the George Sea to the NATO. And only after all that do they finally bank into Melswith.
Okay, let's unpack this. I look at that route and I have to reconsider fundamentally understanding air travel.
How do you mean?
Well, on a typical 6-hour flight, the route is just an invisible line on the screen.
Yeah.
Right? It's an obstacle between point A and point B.
Yeah, you shut your window. All right.
Exactly. This isn't a flight, though. It's more like an airborne ocean.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
And when a flight is this long, you are crossing so rapidly that the concept of local time completely disconnects. Doesn't the route itself, like the geography below, actually become a geographic clock for the passenger?
It becomes exactly that, a geographic clock, yes. Because when human circadian rhythms are utterly destroyed by crossing multiple time zones a day, the airline, they have to find a way to keep passengers biologically and psychologically regulated.
People would lose their minds.
Precisely. Because the flight passes over such diverse global regions, vast oceans, tropical islands, the topography below actually provides a physical tether to reality. It perfectly sets up the vessel's unique technological features.
And that biological regulation is directly into the logistical structure of the cabin itself. I mean, if you keep 1,000 people sitting in standard airline seats, just staring at seatback screens for 5 days,
the cabin fever would escalate into genuine psychological distress.
It would be mathematically unsustainable.
Yes. Human beings require levels of spatial stimulation, exertion, social to maintain baseline sanity over a 123-hour period. So to solve this, Qonsulate Airways engineered a technical and logistical paradigm shift, which is the in-flight mall.
Okay, the moment I reviewed the crew logs, fascinating. Because exactly 10 hours after takeoff, there is a literal changing of the guard.
Quite a production.
The captain initiates a protocol that officially transfers interior flight management from the standard air crew to the mall staff.
And the architecture required to support that is, I mean, decks 1 to 3 operate as a high-end resort. They have a luxurious hotel, a full-scale casino, and a spa.
A spa on a plane.
Right. And then decks 4 through 6 feature a world-class shopping mall. We're talking fine dining establishments like the Port Steakhouse, alongside luxury retail and convenience stores like the Port and Newbie Mart.
I have to pause on one specific feature here because the physics initially seemed impossible.
The balcony.
Yes, the aero balcony. Feature on the upper decks where suite guests step out into a protected deck area to literally feel the rush of the outside air mid-flight.
It sounds insane.
I read that and immediately thought, an open air balcony at 35,000 feet, the wind shear alone will be lethal.
It sounds like a severe safety violation until you actually look at the aerodynamic engineering. The air balcony isn't a protruding deck.
Okay.
It utilizes a recessed full pocket. So the exterior of the aircraft is shaped to force a 500-mile-per-hour jet stream to essentially jump over the opening, creating an artificial low-pressure vacuum bubble.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the air the passengers are isn't the direct jet stream. It's heavily decelerated, pressurized ambient air circulating within that pocket.
It's an incredible manipulation of fluid dynamics just to give passengers the option of being outdoors.
Exactly.
But, creating this sprawling deck commercial environment inevitably creates a bizarre, deregulated economy on board.
Micro, yes.
Let's talk about the seat economy. The passenger logs detail a situation with a Norwegian couple, Frank and Sarah.
Right.
They boarded this flight, but completely neglected to book a room in the in-flight hotel for the 4 days of designated mall time.
Which is a huge percent of a 5-day flight.
Right. And conversely, you have passengers in economy cabins who are facing the prospect of sleeping upright for nearly a week.
Yeah, like the Swithlands family, Jim and Clara.
Exactly. So what happens is organic free market social dynamic emerges. Frank and Sarah realize they hold a highly appreciated but currently valuable asset, which is their first class seats.
Right, because they don't want to sit in them, they want to be at the mall.
Right. So they end up renting out those first class seats to economy passengers, to Jim and Clara for cash on future upgrades. And then Frank and Sarah just spend the next 4 days living nomads in the mall.
Just sleeping and learning.
Wait, so what does this all mean for class structures in travel? I mean, it's like a pop-up real estate market happening at 30,000 feet. A seat isn't just a ticket anymore, it's a sublettable asset.
It's fascinating. And the reason Qonsulate Airways allows it is because their ticket contracts include a tenant at will clause for these ultra long haul routes.
Oh.
Yeah. The airline treats the cabin as a living. As long as weight distribution remains safety margins for takeoff and landing, mid-flight locations are completely deregulated. It keeps passengers occupied.
That is wild. Economy passengers utilizing their savings to buy temporary upward mobility, while first-class passengers voluntarily displace themselves for cash.
But commerce and luxury only satisfy part of the psychological need for distraction. Because, to prevent severe muscle atrophy and physiological stagnation over 5 days, passengers require intense physical exertion.
Right. You can't just walk the mall for 5 days.
Exactly. And this connects directly back to that geographic clock we established earlier. The primary method for physical output is the outdoor sports center, which utilizes geoholography.
Oh, this technology is where the boundary between virtual reality and physical engineering just completely dissolves.
It really does.
I was looking at the telemetry for when the flight crosses over at the island of City. The sports center features the blank, environmentally sealed studio rooms. And when the plane passes over City, the room activates and perfectly mirrors the exact geography and climate of the location they are currently flying over.
Right, the Kangaloo River.
Yes, the room transforms.
And the ambient temperature inside the simulator instantly calibrates to match the 32 degrees Celsius heat of the island below them.
That is so cool.
And it is a highly physical, tactile experience. The passengers strap into physical rafts, and the room subjects them to simulated grade 7 rapids.
Wow.
The kinetic feedback is so violently realistic that the logs note one 13-year-old passenger, Martin actually experienced severe motion sickness and threw up.
Oh, poor kid. But wait, I have a logistical question about this. Water is incredibly heavy. You can't simulate a river by sloshing thousands of gallons of water around the upper decks of an aircraft.
No, absolutely not. The weight shifting would pull the plane right out of the sky.
So how are they achieving this physical resistance?
It relies on a system of haptic vapor displacement and localized centripetal plates.
Okay, what does that mean?
Basically, there is no actual standing river. The system uses a relatively small volume of highly pressurized, constantly recycled water mist. It fires at the passengers at specific velocities to stimulate the water weight.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. Meanwhile, floor plates use kinetic resistance to perfectly mimic the violent pitch and yaw of a raft on rapids, synchronized with advanced holographic projections. Your brain and your muscles are just completely tricked into fighting a current that doesn't actually exist.
It is brilliant engineering,
Mm.
and here's where it gets really good. This means your entertainment is strictly at the mercy of the pilot's speed.
Yes.
The logs indicate that the simulator guide explicitly warns the passengers they only have a 1 hour window for the river rafting program. Why? Because the geoholography is tethered to the plane's GPS coordinates.
Exactly. Once the pilot flies past the borders of Tasidi or the virtual roller coaster over Pulayaman, program shuts down.
You are literally racing the geography below you.
What's fascinating here is that this technology blurs the line between transit and tourism. I mean, you are technically visiting these tropical rivers while locked inside an airplane cabin 30,000 feet in the air.
It's totally surreal. But all of this advanced is ultimately just a backdrop for human experience.
Absolutely.
Because extreme physical environments strip away our emotional defenses. And an enclosed environment like this acts as a pressure cooker for the passengers' personal lives.
We see this vividly in the passenger profiles. Take the emotional core of the logs concerning Griffin and his teenage daughter, Pamela.
Yeah, that story is heartbreaking.
It really is. Their presence on this flight is not for leisure at all. It is a forced, deeply traumatic relocation.
Right. Just 7 days prior to boarding this flight, Pamela's mother died unexpectedly. And as a direct legal consequence of sudden death, Griffin lost the residency status. So Chinese began back to Melswith as illegal migrants. They had to pack up whatever they could carry and flee to a city Pamela has no connection to.
The psychological burden there is immense. Father terrified of being deported and trapped in acute, unresolved grief.
And they can't see it.
No, instead of having space to process it, they are sealed inside a flying luxury mall for 5 days. They cannot run away. They're forced to confront each other.
And because life demands a release valve of that much pressure, we see this fascinating social dynamic play out between Pamela and Johnny.
Oh, right. The older son of that Swithlandic family who rented the first class seats.
Exactly. If you look at this purely through a sociological lens, their interaction, evolving, awkward teen romance.
Yeah, in a normal environment, a teenage romance might take months of casual interaction to develop. But here, the timeline just completely collapses.
Right. Johnny is classic adolescent defense mechanisms, right? He's playing video games, feigning disinterest to hide his.
Trying to mask the sheer panic of navigating a complex social interaction in a confined space.
Exactly. But they bond over food. And food acts as an incredible cultural bridge. Pamela is mourning her entire life and misses her Shenyen curry chicken noodles as a physical anchor to her past.
And she ends up exchanging food with Johnny, right? Trying his Swithlandic Swabi Lake pie.
Yes. They are quite literally consuming each other's cultural backgrounds, baseline of communication.
And that initial bridge leads to a rapid escalation. Within a couple days, they're bowling together, and eventually they utilize one of the hollow novel hotel rooms to sneak away and make out.
Which naturally triggers a severe, tense fallout with the grieving Griffin.
Of course.
I mean, Griffin is already grappling with the absolute loss of control over his life. So when you travel, you bring your baggage both literal and emotional. This 123-hour flight forces people to confront their grief and relationships.
And that friction is unavoidable in the broader social ecosystem of the aircraft, too. The dining car is a perfect example. It serves as a microcosm of global wealth and cultural dynamics.
Oh, the cultural mashups in the dining car are incredibly revealing.
Very distinct cultural interactions. You have the Swithlanders, who the logs note sound quite English, and passengers like Max and June from Jovanea adhering to very traditional, polite dining structures.
Right. They order exactly what is expected. Traditional meals like beef and onion sauce, pan-fried swordfish.
But then contrast that with the Mildrations, Frank and Sarah, the ones who capitalized on the seat economy.
Yes.
The source material describes them as sounding almost like upcountry Americans, and their behavior reflects this completely different, unabashed socioeconomic confidence. They sit down at the Court Steakhouse and confidently order entirely off menu.
They demand whiskey-soaked pan-fried mushrooms with lobster bisque.
Right, and the micro tolerates it because it operates on unregulated dynamic pricing.
Exactly. But, that same forced proximity that causes cultural friction also breaks down rigid social hierarchies. Look at what happens later in the journey with Griffin.
Oh, yes.
The sheer exhaustion of the flight, combined with the friction with Pamela, finally breaks him. He begins sobbing openly in his seat in the main cabin.
And in a normal public setting, strangers would avert their eyes or maintain distance. But the flight breaks down traditional age and social barriers. It's young Martin, the 13-year-old who experienced motion sickness earlier, who ends up comforting a crying Griffin. He just reaches over, pats him on the back, and acknowledges his pain.
It is a striking moment of vulnerability. But inevitably, the suspended 5-day alternate reality has to end.
It does.
After a 5-day lifetime on board, how do you successfully reintroduce these passengers back into the real world?
The logistical execution of the arrival in Melswith is carefully calculated. The descent drops them into the chilly minus 10 degrees of
the system. And the logistics of the disembarking are so quirky.
Yeah, Qonsulate International Airport has a very unique setup. The QS73 is far too massive for a standard terminal.
So they can't just deploy a jet bridge.
No, instead it parks at a quote-unquote tall standard house in the woods. Completely.
Which is so bizarre. To get to Pier F, passengers board these massive Turnevolent buses.
Right, the Turnevolent buses, and these are not standard airport shuttles. They are colossal 4-decked vehicles.
And they're designed to look and feel exactly like the plane itself.
Yes.
Complete with continued drink service, which, of course, Sarah enthusiastically takes advantage of. Vodka-laced orange juices to the sheep.
Naturally. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, from a psychological standpoint, this arrival method is an transitional mechanism. We can compare it to the process of deep sea diving.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it. It's like a decompression chamber for travelers.
Exactly. If the diver ascends too rapidly, the sudden change causes the bends. These passengers have spent 5 days operating in an unregulated microeconomy, engaging in holographic tourism, processing intense emotional trauma.
Right.
If you thrust them directly from that luxurious 5-day flying city onto a cold, minus 10-degree tarmac, the psychological shock would be severe.
Cognitive bends.
Yes. The buses prevent that shock. They slowly keep the passengers back into reality.
It is bizarre and brilliant. When we recap the entirety of Flight QS73, it just redefines long-haul travel completely. From seat-renting microeconomies and geoholographic rapids to 4-decked terminal buses.
All while housing profound human stories of grief, love, and cultural collision.
It really changes how you view a boarding pass.
It does. And I think it leaves us with a compelling final thought. If a transit system becomes so advanced that it features its own climate, economy, and society, at what point does the airplane stop being the vehicle and start becoming the actual destination?
That is an incredible question. I mean, if you live an entire transformative lifetime between takeoff and landing, maybe the city you step into is just the layover.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive into the logistics and humanity of QS73. The next time you buckle into a seat, maybe you'll catch yourself wishing the captain said 123 hours. Keep exploring the fascinating intricacies of the world around you, and we will see you on the next deep dive.